number system. Okay, what I will do is, as I said last time, I'll first illustrate, not in full detail, but some of the basic facts about getting the real number system from the rational number system. Okay, through Cauchy sequences, because you can do it in two different ways. Okay, there is another one through Dedekind cuts. First, I am going to discuss through Cauchy sequences. So therefore, first of all, we are going to take sequences of rational numbers. So we denote that by q power n. So let's say, for example, our old definition, what does this stand for? Q is the rational numbers, n is the set of all positive integers. By Qn, we mean the set of all functions from n to q. This was our notation for q power n, a power b. And any function from n to q is called a sequence of rational numbers, because we can write it as f1, f2, f3, f4, etc. and each fj is a rational number. So this is the set of all sequences of rational numbers. Set of all sequences of rational numbers. So we'll in this we are going to take special types of sequences. Note, we defined the notion of convergence. So if Rn is a sequence of rational numbers, so I will denote it as it's an element of q power n. Suppose I have a sequence of rational numbers and I have a rational number q, then we say, I'll have to be used very careful with my words here, Rn converges in q to R if something happens, namely the difference gets smaller and smaller, and the smallness is measured in terms of small rational numbers. So everything is in terms of rational numbers. If for every epsilon positive, epsilon rational number, this is very bad epsilon in q, there exists n epsilon such that n greater than or equal to n epsilon implies the difference can be made smaller than epsilon. That is the standard definition of convergence. Beyond a certain stage, the difference becomes as small as you want. Beyond which stage does it become, that will depend on how small you want the error to be. You prescribe the error, then I will tell you where you should look for. You go and look for beyond this stage, then you will always find the error to be less than epsilon. That's the definition of convergence, standard definition for any situation. Now look at, I said convergence in q because I am dealing everything in terms of q. This n epsilon is a positive integer, so they are also rational numbers. So everything there is rational. Everything is defined in terms of rational numbers. That's why I say convergence in q. Now this limiting process, then we write, let's use the notation, then we write limit n tending to infinity of Rn is up. This is the notation. If all this happens, we just simply write limit n tending to infinity of Rn equal to R. Okay, so now we'll take for granted all the standard limit rules. The sum of the limits is the limit of the sum. The product of the limits is the limit of the product. So those two only I will state. Any other property I need, I will come later. Suppose Rn and Sn belong to Q power n, that is both are sequences of rational numbers. Limit n tending to infinity of Rn is R, limit n tending to infinity Sn is S, then that implies for every alpha beta in Q, see everything is rational, okay, alpha beta in Q, alpha Rn plus beta Sn limit n tending to infinity is alpha R plus beta S. So the superpositions are preserved under this limiting process. Now if we can do it for 2, we can do it for a finite number. And limit n tending to infinity of Rn Sn is Rs. So the limit preserves superpositions, the limit preserves products. So that's the first thing that we'll use. Now without much ado, I will now move to some special property of convergent sequences. Okay. So suppose this is what we are going to use. Suppose Rn belongs to Qn is okay, is such that limit n tending to infinity Rn is R. That is, it's a convergent sequence. Suppose I have a convergent sequence of rational numbers. What this says is everybody is going to get close to R, and therefore they are gate crashing into R. So any two will be crashing within themselves also. That's what the notion of Cauchy-Conoff. If everybody is going to go towards the wall, then there is hardly any difference between the guys. Okay, everybody is falling one over the other. Okay, that's what the notion of the Cauchy sequence is. Okay, so what this says is for every epsilon positive, by definition, there exists an n epsilon such that if you go and see beyond that stage, then the difference between Rn and R will be less than epsilon. So, if I take an n which is greater than n epsilon, then Rn minus R will be less than epsilon. And if I take an m greater than n epsilon, then Rm minus R will also be less than epsilon. Because the convergence says beyond a certain stage, the difference between the member of the sequence and R must be less than epsilon, whichever member you look at. So I choose the member Rn who is beyond that stage. I look at the member Rm who is beyond that stage, and the difference is less than epsilon. So that says, or let me call it as, okay, doesn't matter. This, I'll call it epsilon by 2. The error to be epsilon by 2. This adjusting into neat epsilon, for some reason, somebody doesn't like if it is less than 2 epsilon. Okay. If epsilon is small, 2 epsilon is also small. So, therefore, you write an epsilon 1, then adjust in the end, choose epsilon 1 to be this, and then you get that. Okay. So, this is equal to mod Rn minus R plus R minus Rm. This is a standard trick. Okay. And then the modulus of the sum is less than or equal to the sum of the moduli. Now this is less than epsilon by 2, this is less than epsilon by 2. So this that says mod Rn minus Rm is less than epsilon. So whenever you have a convergent sequence, there is a stage beyond which you go and take any two fellows, the difference will be less than epsilon. Pick arbitrarily any two elements of the sequence beyond that stage, they will be within an epsilon distance of each other. And that is what is known as a Cauchy sequence. So therefore, conclusion is what? the conclusion we have should use that. This is the starting point for all our discussions of construction. So, for if Rn, so this is the conclusion. Rn is a sequence of rational numbers. Convergence in Q implies for every epsilon positive, epsilon in Q, there exists an n epsilon such that if we go and see beyond that stage and pick any two fellows, their difference is less than epsilon. This is a fundamental property of convergent sequences. So we now give a definition. A sequence Rn in Qn, that is a sequence of rational numbers, is said to be a Cauchy sequence in Q. I keep writing that in Q because everything is done in Q. No other numbers are brought in. If this property holds, if star holds. So what we have so far concluded therefore is, if we have a convergent sequence of rational numbers, then it must be a Cauchy sequence. So that's what the first result is. So therefore, all this conclusion and this definition now can be combined to put, which we use this definition in this conclusion. We have therefore every convergent sequence in Q power n is a Cauchy sequence in Q. Now, some people at this stage use the word fundamental sequence instead of Cauchy sequence. I'll use the word Cauchy sequence, it doesn't matter. Okay. Now, the real problem comes, what we have concluded is, whenever Rn is convergent, everybody is gate crashing to R, and therefore they are gate crashing to each other. That's what that. However, suppose everybody is gate crashing into each other towards the end, then do they gate crash to one gate? That is, if a sequence is fundamental, if a sequence is Cauchy, should it converge? That is, I give you only this, should there exist an R such that Rn converges to R? The answer is no. So there seems to be some gaps. Everybody is going somewhere, then finally they fall in a pit because there is nothing there. There is no real rational number to which they can go. However, there are Cauchy sequences in Q which do not converge in Q. So this is a deficiency in Q. This deficiency is with respect to limiting processes. Everything seems to be getting somewhere, but finally they are not getting anywhere. Everybody is gate crashing, Rn and Rm are getting closer and closer, but there is no Q to which they can go and fall. So this is a defect. Every number system was created to remove some defect in the existing number system. This is a defect in the number system, a rational number system. We try to remove this defect, and that's where we get the real numbers. Now, before I get into how we do it, it's a long story. It's not easy. There are many things to be proved, which I will not prove, but I'll indicate, sometimes state, and so on and so forth. But let me justify this statement. For example, there are many examples that one can give for this fact that Cauchy sequence in Q, but which does not converge to anything in Q. I will sort of discuss an example, not with full details. This stems from a very famous continued fraction for root 2. It was very popular, which was popular with Ramanujan also. So let's take, for example, let's consider, first I will write a few things, then you will guess what it is. Consider the following sequence in Q. R1 is 1. That's certainly a rational number. R2 is 1 plus 1/2. That's certainly a rational number. R3 is 1 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2. Denominator is now 2 plus 1 by 2. Now you see I can write this as 1 plus 1 by 2 plus, or 2 plus half I can write as 1 plus 1 plus half, which is, what is 1 plus 1 plus half? That is, this 1 plus half is R2. So I got R3 is 1 plus 1 by 1 plus R2. Now that's the recurrence relation. So in general, for n greater than or equal to 2, we define Rn is equal to 1 plus 1 by 1 plus Rn minus 1. I already said what is R1, so I can get R2, then I can get R3, I can get R4. It's a recursive relation. Okay. So you have a small box inside which you input something. The output is 1 plus 1 over 1 plus the input. Now that output you put again as input, again as input, again as input, you will start getting many things. Okay, so here is a box which if you put A, you get output as 1 plus 1 by 1 plus A. Now start with 1, you get an output, bring it back, you get an output, you get an output. So the sequence of outputs with starting with A is what is known as the sequence, this sequence. Okay, so you go like this loop. Now this is an exercise. This is a good exercise to understand what Cauchy sequence is, how one does estimates and all. But maybe after the end of this class, or maybe a little later in the class, you may start seeing how to do it. Exercise, show that. Now, first of all, observe R1 is rational, R2 is rational. In general, if Rn minus 1 is rational, rational plus rational, 1 over rational is rational, rational plus 1 is rational, so Rn is also rational. So you get a sequence of rational numbers. So show that the sequence of rational numbers Rn converges, is a Cauchy sequence in Q. So it's a Cauchy sequence in Q. Claim the sequence does not converge in Q. So we have a Cauchy sequence in Q which does not converge in Q. So whereas we had every Cauchy sequence, every convergence sequence is Cauchy, we have a Cauchy sequence which is not a convergence sequence. Now how quickly to see that it does not converge? Now suppose it converged. Normally what will you do? Take the limit, I will get the limit should be R, say, you will get R is equal to 1 by 1 plus R. If you put everything to the proper order, you will get R squared is equal to 2, and that will say there is a rational number R such that its square is 2, which is false. Square root of 2 is not a rational number, or there is no rational number such that its square is 2. Okay. If there exists, if this converges to X, it converges to R in Q, then we have Rn into 1 plus Rn minus 1 is equal to 1 plus Rn minus 1 plus 1. I just taken the 1 plus Rn minus 1 denominator throughout and multiplied to the left, multiplied throughout by 1 plus R minus 1. So I get Rn plus Rn into Rn minus 1 is equal to 2 plus Rn minus 1. Now n goes to infinity, this goes to R, product rule, this will go to R squared, and that will give you go to 2 plus R. So you will get R plus R squared is 2 plus R, which implies R squared is 2, contradiction, because there is no rational number whose square is 2. So therefore this series, this sequence does not converge in Q. In fact, this sequence, this so-called, if you write it fully, it just goes on 1 plus 1 by 2 by plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2, which is called a continued fraction, which is called a typist nightmare. Okay, to type that seeks 1 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2, and so they have a different notation. Okay, so therefore we have a situation where in the rational numbers there is a certain defect of in the limiting process. Up till the stage of the construction of the rational numbers, the defects that were being eliminated were algebraic in nature. For the first time, we are having a defect which is in the process of a limiting process. So that bring in calculus or analysis or topological, whatever word you want to use. So it is a topological defect which we want to remove. Okay, and so if you wanted to do algebra only, up to Q everything was good, but there are certain algebraic defects even with Q that can be removed and introduce algebraic numbers. Okay, but then beyond that you don't need it. But when you want the limiting process, you have to bring in these fellows. Okay, now, so therefore, hence, there is a defect in Q with regard to limiting process. We want to remove this. We try to remove this. We get a new number system called real numbers. See, the real numbers are so unreal. Okay, such a complicated manner you have to get it. All right, so now how does one go about getting rid of these defects? the idea was already there in the earlier construction of the number systems when defects were being removed. Okay. So it may be worthwhile at least for mentioning one of those so that we understand what we are doing here. Okay. So let's say for example, yeah, this is something which I had not planned, probably, so I will go slow. Okay. I have not, what is the order in which I want to say, most of the time I think about it, but today, let me say for example, so let's recollect how the word recollect is loaded, meant that I already knew it, and so maybe just for something I recollect, okay. How we removed certain defects in number systems. Okay, so let's first say go one step earlier. That is, how did I get the rational numbers? Why did I want to create the rational numbers? I created the rational numbers from the integers. There was a defect in the integers. What was the defect in the integers? I can write down simple linear equations with integer coefficients, but which will not have integer solutions. Just like we did not have limits there we did not have solutions. Okay. What's the sound? Is it? Okay. So consider M. Consider Z, the set of all integers. Then linear equations like Ax equal to B need not have with A, B given in Z to find X in Z. Need not have a solution. Need not have a solution X in that. For example, 3x equal to 4. We cannot find any integer x such that 3 times that integer is equal to 4. So there is a defect into in the integers which were needed for commercial and trade purposes to write properly all your accounting. So we needed that, well, the integers are not enough, we needed something. Now, whenever somebody created some problem, he is giving you new information. Ax equal to b I cannot solve, so he is having new. If you call that equation itself as a new number, let's say for example we do that. Okay, this equation 3x equal to 4, from now on I will write it as 3x equal to 4. That's a new number. It is other than the integers. But I will write a nice compact way of doing it. Namely, to write the equation, I need only the two coefficients, the left hand side coefficient and the right hand side coefficient. So only I will write it. Those two coefficients, the left hand coefficient and the right hand coefficient. And the left hand coefficient is an integer and the right hand coefficient is an integer. So I need an ordered pair of integers. So therefore, I will denote this equation by AB, where AB belongs to Z. So it's an element in Z2, the left hand side and the right hand side of that equation. But however, we were all taught by the early days by the great book of Euclid and all the mathematics that were there before him, which said equals when multiplied by equals remain equal. This is the way Euclid wrote. Everything was in sentence. Imagine today we are following that. It should be hell to go through a math. Already it is hell, but it will be even a bigger hell to go through a math course. Okay. So equals, when multiplied by equals, remain equals. What does that mean? If I take this equation, I want Ax to be equal to B, and therefore if I multiply both sides by the same quantity, I must get equal. But when I multiply both sides by the same quantity, what quantity I am talking about? The only quantities I know at that stage are integers. So if I multiply both sides by integers, they must remain equal. So in other words, if I look at k times Ax, I must want it to be equal to kb. In other words, the solution of this equation must be same as the solution of the equation Ax equal to b, or this number I am getting from this equation must be the same number that I get from that equation. But this number I would have denoted it as Ka and Kb. So I want AB must be the same as Ka, Kb. But I can't have the same. So whenever that same has to be brought in, I say equivalent. I say an ordered pair AB of integers is equivalent to an ordered pair of integers A prime, B prime, if what? Remember what happens here. If I take this and multiply this, and this and multiply this, I must get the same thing. Now remember, everything is a valid arithmetic, because A is integer, B is integer, K is integer, A. So every multiplication is valid and equality makes sense. So basically, therefore, what we are looking at is, we look at Z2. In the Z2, we say AB is equivalent to A prime, B prime if AB prime equal to BA prime. The product of the middles is equal to the product of the extremes. This is how the old arithmetic was written. The product of the middles is equal to the product of the extremes. A, B, A prime, B prime. The product of the extremes is A and B prime, and the product of the middles is B and A prime. So AB prime must be equal to A prime B. If this happens, we say that this is an equivalence relation. Then, once you have an equivalence relation, you have the set of all equivalence classes which give rise to a partition. And the parts of the partition are the new numbers. And those are called rational numbers. That's why a rational number is always having two integers, m by n. Instead of writing as an ordered pair, they wrote the ordered pair as one on top and one on bottom. Okay, so they called it numerator and denominator instead of the left hand and the right hand, or the first coordinate and the second. So it all depends on the terminologies and symbols people use. So we say m by n is equal to m prime by n prime. If mn prime is equal to m prime n, the product of the middles is equal to the product of the extremes. Okay, so that's what the situation. And this number system is what was Q. Okay, so the moral of the story is, when something creates a problem, it has not. It seems to have. It should have something in that world you want, but it doesn't have there. Then you add that fellow to that world. That equation, you add it. That equation was written in terms as a number, as an ordered pair. Many representations you can use. And now when we added that, well, there are many things that can be added in place of that. So we have to lump all those things which give the same information as one piece of information. And that comes from a notion of equivalence relation. And once you get an equivalence relation, you take the partition. And the parts, the distinct parts, give rise to the new numbers. Okay. That is why for a rational number we have 1 by 3, or it is the same, you can write it as 2 by 6 or 3 by 9, they are all same, they are all equivalent. And when you cancel everything, we call it as the lowest form. That is the representative from the equivalence class, this unique representative from the equivalence class. Okay, now what does this tell us? Basically, this tells us a very simple philosophy. If you can't do it with one hand, do it with two hands. I can't do it with one set of integers, so I brought in two set of it. My left hand was an integer, right hand was an integer. Together, they could handle equations like this. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Pardon me. Okay. Great. So what the question therefore is? I am coming to that. I'll come to all the questions now. That's one thing. And what else does this? What did this teach us? If you can't do it with one hand, do it with two hands. If two hands don't work, try three hands. Evolution will tell you, maybe the evolution was the other way around. Okay, for some reason, man or human beings were very stupid. They were supposed to be quadrupeds, and for some reason they stood up. But when they stood up, the vertebrae did not develop as it should have, because when we are four legs, our back did not get all the weight, did not have to carry, the spine did not have to carry all the weight. And today many of people, including me, have back problems is because of our stupidity, ancestor stupidity. They stood up. They should have kept going on four legs. None of us would have had that problem. Okay. Anyway, the evolution is, the general idea is you cooperate. You bring more people together, you may be able to achieve something. Only place where you can't do it is human beings. When more people get together, they make a mess. Okay. All right. So anyway, so therefore, in this case, in the rational number case, what that will suggest is, instead of taking two copies of the rational numbers, take a sequence of copies of rational numbers. So you take sequence of rational numbers, not just mn, m1, m2, m3, m4, m5. That is a sequence of rational numbers. Then you want to introduce an equivalence relation properly. Then you want to get the quotient or the partition, the parts. The parts will give you a new number system, and that will be the real number system. But his question was, when I went from integers to this, did I lose my integers? They must be sitting somewhere here. Where are they sitting? Look at the equivalence class generated by this. Where do they come from? The equation x equal to m, right? Or m by 1. Right hand side is m, left hand side is 1. Left hand side is 1. So this 1 comma m is an ordered pair of integers. For every m, 1 comma m is an ordered pair of integers, and therefore it will be sitting in an equivalence class. That must be a part, and that part is what is representing this m. So m is identified with this equivalence class. So we are not losing the integers, and we can show all the arithmetic is also maintained, and new arithmetic, new numbers that arise. Okay, that is what the way rational numbers are constructed from the integers. The defect is removed by taking two copies of this. What one set of integers could not do, two sets of integers did. Now what one set of rational numbers could not do, a sequence of sets of rational numbers are going to do. So the same thing we are going to do now. So okay. So yeah. Yeah, that's also an integer. Because I said equals multiplied by equals. give the same. That means multiply by the same quantity. The only quantities when we deal up to the, we are reached only up to the integer stage. So everything has to be done in the integer world. So only we can multiply by integers. So whenever k is an integer, then ka, kb must be treated as equivalent to ab, which is the same thing as saying ab is equal to a prime b prime if ab prime equal to a prime b. Okay. Right. So I will come back to these constructions maybe at some other time again. This is just to illustrate that is exactly how one can interpret all these constructions. So what did we do? Where was the defect? The defect was there was no solution for that ax plus b, ax equal to b. Where is the defect now with the rational numbers? Cauchy sequences were there which did not have limit. They did not converge. So take the Cauchy sequence itself as a new number. Now when you take Cauchy sequence as new number, maybe the two Cauchy sequences may be akin to each other. So I have to define an equivalence relation to put all similar equal Cauchy sequences in one club and call that club as a new number. That's what we are going to do. Okay. So in the case of going from, well, I didn't even get started today. In the case of going from integers to rationals, we use the idea equals multiplied by equals remain as equals. So now I have two Cauchy sequences. I must somehow, when can I think of one Cauchy sequence as the same as the other? Now, whenever we talk about sequences and convergence, it matters what happens as we go towards the tail rather than what happens at the beginning of the sequence. As n goes to infinity for sufficiently large n beyond this stage, this is how we talk about a sequence. We don't care what happens in the first 1 million terms, but what is happening towards the tail is what is important. So, towards the end, quote unquote end, if these two sequences are crashing into each other, then I have to treat those two sequences as same. What is meant by that these two sequences are crashing into each other towards the end? That means if I have a sequence Rn, if I have a sequence Sn, if I take Rn minus Sn, towards the end, they are crashing. That means that is converging to 0. So I say that two Cauchy sequences Rn and Sn are equivalent if Rn minus Sn converges to 0. So that is our first definition. If Rn and Sn are Cauchy sequences in Q, we say Rn is equivalent to Sn if limit n tending to infinity Rn minus Sn is equal to 0. This is a new sequence that call it as Tn. See, Rn is rational, Sn is rational, difference is rational, call that difference as Tn. So you get a new sequence of rational numbers. That sequence must converge to the rational number 0. Everything is again rational. This is how we define equivalence of two rational numbers. The equivalence of two Cauchy sequences. Okay. I'll write some remarks, some simple remarks. Okay. One, if note for any rational number Q or rational number R, we can take the constant sequence R, every term is R. Consider the constant sequence R, etc. That is Rn equal to R for every n. But even that's not made up. Beyond a set, because in a sequence, the head is irrelevant. It is the tail that wags. Even if the first 100 terms are some crazy number, 1 million, 1 trillion, 2 trillion, 2 trillion by 4, 3.5 trillion, all kinds of numbers. Beyond a associate, they must all be R. This sequence is a Cauchy sequence. Why is it a Cauchy sequence? When is something is a Cauchy sequence? The difference between two terms will become small as we go beyond a certain stage. But the difference between any two terms is 0 here. There is no question. Already they are small. So that is definitely a Cauchy sequence. Therefore, that's 1. Okay. Now if Sn is any Cauchy sequence in Q and Sn is equivalent to this sequence R, I will call this sequence as R. What can you say? Any Cauchy sequence which is equivalent to this R. Now what is meant by equivalent? That means Sn minus Rn must go to 0. But what is Rn? R. So Sn minus R must go to 0. What does that say about Sn? Sn must converge to R. So if you have any Cauchy sequence which is equivalent to this constant sequence, then that Cauchy sequence must necessarily converge to R. Then limit n tending to infinity Sn is equal to R. Okay, so that is just a remark. So now we have these Cauchy sequences and we have a equivalence relation on Cauchy sequence. So let CQ be the collection of all Cauchy sequences in Q, then this is an equivalence relation on CQ. That's obvious. Any sequence is equivalent to itself because Rn minus Rn goes to 0. If Rn minus Sn goes to 0, Sn minus Rn goes to 0. So if Rn is equivalent to Sn, Sn is equivalent to Rn. If Rn minus Sn goes to 0, Sn minus Tn goes to 0, Rn minus Tn goes to 0. So if Rn is equivalent to Sn, Sn is equivalent to Tn, Rn is equivalent to Tn. So it's reflexive, symmetric and transitive. That's very straightforward. So it's an equivalence relation and therefore is the collection of all parts in the partition given by. So this gives a partition and that partition is denoted by this, and this is what the number system R is. Okay, now I'll have to make a lot of comments about it. Now we have to study this in order to get ideas about the real numbers. So before that, we shall study this CQ. But before that, some remarks. Analogous to his question, suppose R is in Q then RRR is this is a Cauchy sequence. What is this? This is the sequence constant. Every term is R, and therefore there is an equivalence class generated by R. What is equivalence class? Take every Cauchy sequence is equivalent to R. Put them all in that box, and that is the equivalence class. Okay. Then we identify a map from Q to this R as phi of R is equal to this. So what does that say? I have not lost the rational numbers. The rational numbers are appearing as the label of some box. Eventually, they can be identified with one of the boxes. Every rational number can be identified with this big box. Okay. The same rational number are now making an avatar, different avatar in that. This is Dwapara Yuga, that is Treta Yuga. Okay. They were there in this format, and in the real number world, they are making another appearance in a different format. They are the same, but in a different avatar. That's all. Okay. Now, one thing we want to make sure is it is the same fellow. That is, if there is an R and if there is an S, I identify this fellow with one chap and this fellow with one chap. But both are identified to the same chap, I am in trouble. Now the distinction among rational numbers is lost, and we shall now show that distinction is still maintained clearly. R S in Q, R not equal to S implies phi R not equal to phi S. That is, different rational numbers are distinct rational numbers are identified with distinct in the new world of numbers. Why is that so? Suppose phi R equal to phi S, then the equivalence class Rn must be equal to equivalence class R must be equivalent to equivalence Cauchy sequence R must be equivalent Cauchy sequence S. That means R minus S must go to 0, but R is not equal to S. So R minus S will never go to 0. So that's the reason. So that is what that clearly means. Okay. So what have we achieved? So what we have achieved now is we have a new number system, which we call as R. Inside that I have identified a subset which is my new rational, the rational's new avatar. Okay. And it is clearly a subset because we have already seen that there are Cauchy sequences which do not converge in Q. So there is no Cauchy sequence which will be, there are Cauchy sequences which are not equivalent to any of these fellows. So there are irrational numbers. There exist irrational numbers as we have already seen. Okay. So now the question is, okay, you had the Q, you identified with this. What happened to the arithmetic of the rationals? You could add rationals, you could multiply rationals, the rational numbers formed a field, all that. Well, I don't even know how to add here, to check. I know how to add R and S, but I don't know how to add phi R and phi S. So I have to define an arithmetic on R. What is addition? What is multiplication in this new world of numbers that I have created? Okay. So the new world of numbers has been created using sequences. What type of sequences? Cauchy sequences. So some or the other, first I should define addition and multiplication of Cauchy sequences and then pull them out to additional multiplication of these real numbers and then show everything is working out all right. You do it in a natural way, everything that is natural will happen. Okay. So we want to define the arithmetic. in R. Remember, whenever I say R, I mean R is to be treated as the set of all equivalence classes among the Cauchy sequences with the equivalence relation. So, in order to do this, we will have to deal with the Cauchy sequences. So, I will now look at some basic properties of Cauchy. I will list some of them and I will prove some of these in the next class. So, let me just tell you the line of thinking. Okay. First of all, the sum of a finite number of Cauchy sequences in Q is also a Cauchy sequence in Q. Similarly, replace the sum by product. The product of a finite number of Cauchy sequences in Q is also a Cauchy sequence in Q. This has to be proved, but we will prove these things. So, that's the first thing. Then, okay, I will keep properties here. So, now, how do we do it? Okay, let me at least indicate how we are going to do the arithmetic. So, let us take this world. This is our R world. Let us take two fellows sitting inside this, X and Y. So, X must be an equivalence class of Cauchy sequences. It must be an equivalence class generated by Cauchy sequence, we denote by this. Y must be an equivalence class generated by this. Now, I want to get X plus Y and I want that also as a real number. So, I want X plus Y must also be an equivalence class. Right? Which equivalence class? What is Zn? This is definition. What is Zn? What is the correct choice of Zn? Just add Xn and Y. Take Zn as Xn plus Yn. Now, since Xn is Cauchy, Yn is Cauchy, the sum of two Cauchy sequences is Cauchy, therefore Zn is Cauchy, therefore it will generate a equivalence class and that is defined to be X plus Y. And similarly, Xy is defined to be Wn, where Wn, the natural size is X and Y. The product of two Cauchy sequences is Cauchy. Now, let us take addition and multiplication. I will make two comments. One comment with respect to the same comment applies to both of them. Okay. See, what did I do here? I pulled out one representative from the box. The box which was labeled X has several Cauchy sequences, but they are all equal. I pulled one of them. And similarly from the box Y, I pulled one of them. And then I added these two and then created a box. But supposing from the X box I had pulled somebody else, and from the Y box I had pulled somebody else, added those two and created a new box. This new box and the other box will be the same or not? Or basically, does this definition depend on the sequence Xni that is taken to represent this equivalence class, or is it independent of the sequence that I have chosen? If it is not independent, you have screwed up the whole definition. Which means each fellow will have his own definition of addition. There will be one mathematics in this classroom, another mathematics in another classroom. And of course, that's a good thing because you can publish your own papers, he can publish his own papers and so on and so forth. But mathematics will not progress. And lo and behold, this does not depend on the sequence. If we had pulled up an Xn, suppose the same box can be thought of also generated by another xn prime, and this as a yn prime, and then I had looked at xn prime plus yn prime and looked at this box as this plus this. Will it be the same? Will this box be the same as that box? Will it be or will it not be? See, all we know is xn is equivalent to xn prime, yn is equivalent to yn prime. And if I show that xn plus yn must be equal to xn prime plus yn prime, and the two being equivalent, they will generate the same box. That's all. So the simple thing you have to verify is if xn is equivalent to yn and xn prime is equivalent to yn prime, then xn is equivalent to xn prime, yn is equivalent to yn prime, then xn plus yn is equivalent to xn prime. Then everything works out all right. Similarly, product. If xn is equivalent to xn prime, yn is equivalent to yn prime, then xn yn is equivalent to xn prime yn. So we have to prove, at every stage, we have to prove that it is independent of the choice of the representative that you have chosen from the box. The box is labeled X, oranges. But from the box I choose one orange. And I taste and say it's a citrus fruit. Now whatever orange I choose, it must be a citrus fruit. Okay. Similarly, I cross that with another fruit from a box Y. I get a new fruit. And that new fruit is what I call as Z. But now whichever fruit I took from this box and cross, I must get the same taste and the same fruit. And that's what it is. It's independent of the choice of the representative. Okay. So that will give us the definition of addition and multiplication. And then we will have to see that this addition and multiplication, whenever x and y are rational numbers, the old addition and this addition maintain the same identification. Old multiplication, this multiplication maintain the same. And this addition and multiplication for this larger class of numbers obeys all the laws that we expect, and this will become a field. Okay. Later we'll show this become an ordered field and will become an Archimedean field and so on and so forth, and say there is only one such possible field, and therefore whichever way you construct you will get only this. Okay. That's the final clinching line. So what we will do is we will do many of these properties and get several properties of these real numbers, and we will see that the rationals are built into it without losing their arithmetic. And in addition to all this arithmetic, there are several other properties, and there is only one structure possible with all these properties. In other words, there was some other structure, then there will be a coding from one to the other, which will convert one to this or that to that. There will be isomorphic, and therefore up to isomorphism there is only one set of real numbers. Okay. That will be our main goal, to go through all these calculations. So next time I will do the arithmetic of real numbers. Okay.